The night it all exploded began with a single envelope. One I never asked for, one I never wanted, and one I would never forget. I still remember sitting at the long wooden dining table, candles flickering beside a plate I hadn't even touched, while my mother slid that envelope toward me as if it contained the answer to every question I'd ever been afraid to ask. Inside was a bill for $36,432.19. My fiancé, Derek, was demanding I reimburse him for our entire wedding, a wedding he never paid for. My parents had, but he wanted the money anyway. And when I confronted him, I discovered something far worse than financial manipulation. I discovered he'd been cheating. That's when I realized the envelope wasn't just a bill. It was a trap, one designed to keep me locked in a relationship that was slowly destroying me. But what Derek didn't know was that I wasn't the same scared girl anymore, and I was about to walk away from everything. My name is Maddie, and if you ask anyone who knows me, they'll tell you I'm the responsible one, the reliable one, the girl who has everything handled even when she's falling apart inside. I grew up believing that being the strong one was something to be proud of, something that earned you respect. Except it didn't. In my family, strength was just another word for available, and available meant they could take what they wanted without asking. For years, I mistook that for love. I thought their requests, their expectations, their endless intrusions were normal, something every daughter dealt with. I told myself they mean well. But deep down, a quiet voice kept whispering that something was wrong. And when I got engaged, that whisper became a scream. At first, everything looked perfect. Derek, my fiancé, had this polished charm that made people instantly like him. He knew how to smile at the right time, how to say the right thing, how to act like the perfect soon-to-be husband. My parents adored him. My sister practically worshipped him. And I ignored the knots in my stomach because everyone kept telling me I was lucky. Lucky to have someone so successful. Lucky to have someone so committed. Lucky that he wanted to give me the wedding of my dreams. Except Derek wasn't giving anything. My parents were. The first red flag appeared when Derek started bragging publicly that he was paying for the entire wedding. He said it casually at parties, loudly at family dinners, and dramatically on social media, as if the whole world needed to know he was the generous provider. Meanwhile, every deposit, invoice, and receipt had my parents' names on them. I confronted him once, gently. He laughed it off. "Baby, it's just for the image. People respect a man more when it looks like he's leading." I should have run then. But I didn't because when the people you love tell you everything is fine, you learn to swallow your questions. And that's exactly what I did. I pushed down my doubts, ignored the cracks, and convinced myself things would get better after the wedding. Spoiler, they didn't. They got worse. The control started small, suggestions about which friends I should keep, comments about how I dressed, hints that I shouldn't embarrass him by being too emotional or too outspoken. At first, I thought he was trying to help. Then I realized he was shaping me into someone I wasn't. But even then I stayed, because leaving meant disappointing my family, and disappointing my family always came with a price. I should have known the actual price would eventually be written in black ink inside an envelope I never expected to open. The truth is, the envelope wasn't the beginning of the end. The beginning came weeks earlier when Derek returned from a business trip looking restless and guarded. He kept his phone face down, avoided eye contact, and brushed off every question. One evening, his phone lit up with a message from a name I didn't recognize. Just a heart emoji and the words, "Had fun, same time next month." I didn't open it. I didn't need to. A knot formed in my chest that never really went away. And as I sat staring at that envelope in the restaurant, a heavy dread settled over me. Whatever was inside, I knew it would confirm the truth I had been avoiding. A part of me wished I could freeze that moment, stop everything and breathe. But life doesn't wait for clarity. Sometimes it shoves you into the truth before you're ready. My sister leaned forward, pretending to record the moment like it was some family milestone. But her eyes betrayed her. Too wide, too tense, too eager to witness something she already expected to go wrong. And there I was, staring at that slim white rectangle like it was ticking. Tick, tick, tick. I didn't open the envelope right away. I just sat there staring at it while the room slowly blurred around me. The clinking of silverware, the soft hum of conversations, the distant violin, all of it faded into a low buzzing sound in my ears. My mother cleared her throat. My sister shifted in her seat. Derek wasn't there. He said he was busy, which was the excuse he'd been using more and more lately. So it was just me and the envelope. I finally slid my finger under the flap and lifted it open. A stack of papers spilled out, neatly printed, stapled, itemized. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. Then my eyes caught a single bolded line at the top. Wedding expense reimbursement, $36,432.19. My stomach twisted. The room tilted. I flipped through the pages. Every line was a charge. Venue down payment, catering installments, floral design deposit, photography booking, decoration orders, cake reservation fee, and at the bottom of each invoice, a signature. Derek's. Except none of these had been paid by Derek. Not even a single one. Every payment listed, every dollar belonged to my parents. I looked at my mom. She looked away. My sister kept her eyes glued to her phone, pretending she wasn't waiting for my reaction. I whispered, "What is this?" My mother exhaled sharply, her voice carefully controlled. "It's what Derek says you owe him if you cancel the wedding." I felt something inside me crack, like a bone snapping clean in half. "Owe him?" I repeated. My father, who had been quiet the entire time, finally spoke. His voice had the weight of someone who'd been holding back too much for too long. "He dropped this off at the house an hour before you arrived." I couldn't breathe. My mind flicked back to the message I saw in Derek's phone, the nervous energy he carried since returning from that trip, the way he refused to answer simple questions, the excuses, the tension, the lies. And suddenly it all made perfect, horrifying sense. He knew I was pulling away. He knew I had questions. He sensed the truth creeping up on him. So he tried to trap me financially before I could walk away emotionally. Control. Everything came back to control. I pushed the papers aside. This is insane. My mom, ever the peacemaker, even when she shouldn't be, said softly, "Maybe he's just scared. Weddings are stressful. Couples fight. Maybe he—" No. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Something steadier, colder spoke through me. I stood up. I'm going to talk to him. That night, I drove to Derek's apartment. The hallway smelled like stale cologne and someone's burnt dinner, and when I reached his door, I didn't even knock gently. I pounded, once, twice, 3 times. He opened it wearing gym shorts and that trademark confident smirk, the same one that used to melt me. This time, it made my skin crawl. "Oh, hey, babe." Like nothing was wrong. "Why did you give my parents a bill?" I asked. His expression didn't change. He simply leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "What else was I supposed to do? You keep pulling away. Canceling the wedding would ruin my reputation. People talk. I needed insurance." Insurance? He said it like it was normal, like I was property he had invested in. I took a deep breath. "Those invoices? You didn't pay for anything. My parents did." He shrugged. "Your parents paid under my name. Same thing." "No, not the same thing." My voice trembled, not with fear, but with anger so sharp that it made my heart pound. "Derek, I saw the messages." For the first time, the mask slipped. His eyes widened for a fraction of a second before he caught himself. But it was enough. "What messages?" he asked too quickly. I didn't even answer. I didn't need to. I sat. And I told them everything. I didn't sugarcoat any of it. The cheating, the manipulation, the lies, the invoices, the threats. My mother's face shifted between shock and denial, like her mind was trying to rewrite my words into something easier to digest. My dad didn't even blink. He just stared at the floor, jaw tight, like he'd known something was off long before any of us admitted it. When I finished, my mom finally spoke, her voice trembling. "Maddie, this is going to embarrass us." I stared at her, stunned. "Embarrass you?" She wrung her hands anxiously. "The invitations, the deposits, the guests, we can't just undo all of that. People will talk. This will ruin our reputation." There it was again. Reputation. The most sacred concept in my family. I felt my throat tighten. "You're worried about what people will say? Mom, he cheated on me, and he tried to trap me financially. Isn't that enough?" My sister finally came down the stairs, arms crossed. "You always make everything dramatic," she muttered. "If he cheated, forgive him. Everyone cheats. It's just how men are." My jaw dropped. My father shot her a sharp look. "That is not how men are, and that man is not coming back into this house." My sister rolled her eyes, but stayed quiet. For the first time in a long time, my dad looked at me, not like his little girl, but like a woman standing on the edge of something life-changing. He asked quietly, "What do you want to do?" "I want out." My voice did not tremble, not even a little. He nodded once. "Then you're out." My mother turned toward him, horrified. "We can't just support this." "We can," he said firmly, "and we will." My mom looked between us, stunned by the sudden shift of power. She wasn't used to losing control of a situation. She wasn't used to me stepping out of the role I'd been assigned since childhood, the good daughter, the quiet one, the dependable one. But I wasn't that girl anymore, not after Derek, not after the envelope, not after what almost happened to my life. The next morning, my dad and I went straight to the wedding planner's office. She blinked rapidly when we told her the wedding was canceled. "But the deposits?" "My daughter isn't marrying a liar," my dad said, "and I don't care about the deposits." For a moment, I saw her expression soften. Maybe she'd seen this happen before, someone booking a dream wedding only to discover the nightmare beneath it. When we left, my dad put his hand on my shoulder. "You didn't deserve any of this," he said quietly. I didn't realize how badly I needed to hear that until my eyes started to sting. But I didn't cry. Not yet. There were still battles left to fight. Because by the time we got home, Derek had already sent me 8 messages. At first, they were apologetic. "Baby, let's talk. We can fix this. I messed up, but we can move forward." Then they became impatient. "Answer me. You're acting crazy. Stop being dramatic." Then threatening. "You will regret this. You think you can walk away from me? I'll make sure people see the truth." And finally, desperate. "You owe me. You better pay me back. If you don't, I'll expose everything." Expose what? I wasn't the one hiding anything. Still, the threats hit deep, because deep down, I always feared that if someone wanted to destroy me, they could. Not because I was weak, but because I cared too much. About people's opinions, about my parents' approval, about keeping the peace. For years, that fear kept me quiet. But not anymore. Not after everything I had survived. That night, I sat alone in my room with the stack of invoices in front of me. I read every line, every amount, every signature. Then I wrote Derek a message, my first and only reply since walking out. It had 3 words. "Stop contacting me." He replied instantly. "You think you're done? You're not done. I will get my money." I took a deep breath and typed back, Take me to court. Silence. Then another message. You won't survive that. I didn't respond because something inside me had shifted. I wasn't scared of him anymore. Not of his words, not of his threats, not of his anger. He had already taken enough from me. He wasn't getting another ounce. And in that quiet, I made a promise to myself, a vow stronger than any wedding vow I would have spoken. I will rebuild my life, piece by piece, on my terms, not his. I remember waking up the next morning to sunlight cutting through my curtains, landing right on the spot where that envelope used to sit. It wasn't there anymore, but its weight, its history, its damage, it all lingered like smoke after a fire. I walked into the kitchen, half expecting another ambush, some guilt-loaded speech, a new drama, some fresh angle to drag me back into the cycle I grew up in. But the house was silent, peaceful, undisturbed. It felt strange, almost unnatural. For the first time in years, I wasn't bracing myself, and that's when it hit me. I had been living my whole life like someone expecting a punch, shoulders tight, mind on guard, heart in defensive mode. But now I wasn't scared anymore. I wasn't trying to please anyone. I wasn't shrinking myself to fit the role they wrote for me. I finally felt like a person, not property. The weeks after canceling the wedding were harder than I expected. Not because I missed Derek, I didn't, but because the life I had imagined, the future I had planned, the person I thought I was becoming, it all evaporated overnight. I had to rebuild from scratch. New routines, new boundaries, new conversations with family members who still didn't fully understand why I walked away. My mom struggled the most. She kept bringing up the embarrassment, the lost deposits, the confused guests. She couldn't understand why I wouldn't just work it out with Derek. But my dad stood firm. Every time she started, he'd quietly say, "She made her choice. We support her." And slowly, reluctantly, she started to accept it too. My sister took longer. She avoided me for weeks, clearly uncomfortable with the fact that I had disrupted the family's carefully maintained image. But eventually, even she came around, not with an apology, but with a quiet acknowledgement that maybe I had been right. The hardest part wasn't the family drama or Derek's angry messages. It was learning to trust myself again, learning that I deserved better, learning that walking away wasn't weakness. It was the bravest thing I'd ever done. Months passed. I started therapy. I reconnected with friends I had drifted away from during my relationship with Derek. I picked up hobbies I had abandoned. I began writing again, something I hadn't done since college. And slowly, piece by piece, I started to recognize myself in the mirror again. One day, I got a message from an unknown number. My heart jumped. Was it Derek again? But when I opened it, it was from the wedding planner. She wrote, "I just wanted to tell you that I've seen a lot of weddings in my career. Some of them shouldn't have happened. You made the right choice. I hope you're doing well." I stared at that message for a long time. Then I saved it. Because sometimes you need reminders that your pain was valid, your choice was right, and your strength was real. People ask me sometimes if I regret calling off the wedding, if I wish I had handled things differently, if I ever wonder what would have happened if I had just stayed. The answer is always no. Because that envelope, that terrible, manipulative, soul-crushing envelope, didn't just expose Derek's lies, it exposed mine too. The lie that I needed to be perfect to be loved. The lie that keeping the peace was more important than keeping my dignity. The lie that I owed anyone my silence, my compliance, my life. Walking away from Derek wasn't just about leaving a bad relationship. It was about reclaiming myself, about remembering that I was worth more than what people expected me to tolerate. And every day since then has been a reminder that freedom isn't just the absence of control, it's the presence of choice. The ability to say no, the courage to walk away, the strength to rebuild. A year later, I moved into my own apartment, small but mine. Every piece of furniture, every decoration, every decision completely mine. My dad helped me move in. As we stood in the empty living room, surrounded by boxes, he turned to me and said, "You know, I'm proud of you. Not because you called off the wedding, but because you chose yourself." Those words meant more to me than any wedding vow ever could. Derek never took me to court. He never exposed anything. He simply moved on, probably to find another woman he could control and manipulate. I heard through mutual friends that he was engaged again within 6 months. I felt nothing when I heard that. No jealousy, no vindication, no anger. Just a quiet sense of relief that I wasn't her. My relationship with my family improved too. My mom eventually apologized, not for pressuring me to stay, but for not listening when I tried to tell her something was wrong. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. And me, I learned that the strongest version of myself wasn't the one who never broke. It was the one who broke, survived, and chose to rebuild on her own terms. The lesson. If you're reading this and you see yourself in my story, if you're in a relationship that feels like a trap, if your family prioritizes reputation over your well-being, if you're constantly shrinking yourself to fit someone else's expectations, please know this. You are not obligated to stay. You are not required to sacrifice your peace for someone else's comfort. You are not responsible for fixing what other people broke. That envelope changed my life, not because of what was inside it, but because of what I chose to do after opening it. I chose myself, and you can too. The morning I finally felt free wasn't the morning after I left Derek. It was the morning I stopped waiting for someone to tell me I made the right choice. Because I already knew I had. And that knowledge, that certainty, was worth more than any wedding, any relationship, any family approval could ever be. I was finally truly free.